A bartender is a person who formulates and serves alcohol or soft drink beverages behind the bar, usually in a licensed establishment. He or she is known as a mixologist. The art of mixology is the study or skill set of inventing, preparing, and serving mixed drinks or cocktails. Here in the beautiful U.S. Virgin Islands, there are bars and restaurants with bars, operated just known as bartenders. Come with us on another journey up the United States Virgin Islands here on Food Beat Island Adventure. The term rum running most likely originated at the start of Prohibition in the United States from 1920 to 1933. On March 31st, 1917, just 3 years before the start of Prohibition, the United States purchased the Danish West Indies from Denmark for only $25 million. Since then, we have been known as the United States Virgin Islands, America's paradise. During the time of Prohibition, rum running was wild in the United States and their new Virgin Islands. Rum played a major role in the USVI economy both during and after Prohibition. Rum distilleries in the US became one of the largest manufacturing employers. Rum distilleries were popping up everywhere in the USVI, thus creating a need for the best mixologists, and they are called bartenders. Today, rum has become a very large source for positive actions in the Virgin Islands. Between the islands, we have 4 different rum distilleries where some of the world's best are made. People travel to our islands from all around the world just to take home cases of our Crujan rum. Rum has created jobs and has continued to be a major source of tourism and income in the USVI. So June, when did you start bartending?
I started about 10 years ago, back in the States.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you move to St. Thomas?
A year and a half ago.
What made you want to become a bartender in the first place?
It started out as a second job. I had a job as a high school teacher, and I needed some extra income, so I found a job that I could do on the weekends and in the evenings, and it turned out that I really enjoyed it, and it became my full-time job instead of teaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
And as a bartender, do you find yourself drinking a lot just in general when you're off work, or do you become the rum? Or you just
Actually, no. I don't really drink that much, which is actually a little bit of a downside because sometimes people ask me, oh, what goes good with this or what goes good with that, and so it's a little bit of a downside for me because I don't have much of a personal education as far as taste of alcohol.
We get that a lot. We find that a lot of people who brew or people who work with the rum don't actually drink on their own. They're more involved in the science and the work of it than just drinking it. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You got a good head on your shoulders because you were a teacher, that's why. All right, and so let's see. How about anything specialty that you do around here that people that are local here on this side of the Crown Bay Marina area really enjoy?
I have learned a lot down here. What people like to drink down here is different from the bars that I worked at in the States. It was a lot more whiskey and bourbon where I came from, and I didn't know much about rum at all until I moved down here. So I have learned a lot down here about rum and rum drinks and all the different flavors of rum, and so I have learned about crucian confusions. I have learned about painkillers, all the hits that when the tourists come, all the things that really surprise them and delight them, and so those are the things that I enjoy making for people down here.
Very good. Yeah. So that's actually a big point that we're trying to make. We're trying to let viewers know that rum really has been a very large part of the USVI culture, Caribbean culture in general. So even being from somewhere else, you come down here and you realize that that is something large. So it's good to hear you say that for us. Thank you. That's great.
And actually, just today, I had some people come down, and the first thing they say is, "I want a Malibu and pineapple." And I'm like, "Are you sure you want Malibu? You're here. Do you want to try a crucian coconut? And so it happened just today. A couple from California, and I was like, "Are you sure you want Malibu?" So you try to get people introduced to crucian and all their different flavors, and so and even I wasn't really familiar with that till I got here. So
did they try it?
They did. Absolutely, yeah. They loved it.
Good. Was it difficult for you to maybe take someone from the States who had a different drink choice and try to get them to try something new?
No, I find that the tourists are really eager and excited, and they usually come down and they have a ton of questions and they want to know, and I'm still learning, so I usually don't really have all the answers for them, but there's so much rum.
Yeah,
there's so much, and there's from all the different islands, and so I'm still learning about all of that, and people are really excited to learn, and when they're here, they're so eager to try everything.
Good.
Yeah.
That's very.
I haven't met with any resistance from anyone when it comes to the alcohol.
Because that's the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Kevin, can you go around all the equipment in the room and show us how it all works?
Certainly, we can take a look at that.
Awesome.
Go this way. So the brewing process starts right here in what's called the mash tun, and the barley malt gets crushed and broken open. It goes in here with some warm water, about 148 to 158 degrees, depending on which beer we're making. After it sits in here for an hour, the starches get changed to sugars, and then we're ready to run it off. Actually, we do a little thing called boil off, which is a German word for recirculate. And it helps clear up the mash, so we just pump it from the bottom to the top. It takes about 20 minutes, and then after that we're ready to run it to the kettle to do our boil, and that's right over here.
Okay.
So This is the boil kettle, and it's just a giant pot. Not much in there now. It's heated by steam, so after it takes about an hour, we sparge. We keep rinsing the grain to get all the sugars out of the grain. It takes about an hour to fill this up, and then we bring it to a boil, and that's when we add our hops. So our first hop addition is for bittering, and then throughout the boil, we add hops at different times, depending on which kind of beer it is and the amount of hops that are done. So after it gets done boiling, we let it rest for a little while with a whirlpool to bring the proteins and things to the center. So when we draw up here, we don't get them into the fermenter. So now we need to get them from here to the fermenter for the yeast to make the beer. The only problem is this is around 200, 210 degrees now, and the yeast needs it 68 degrees. So we go through what's called a heat exchanger. It kind of works like the radiator of your car, but instead of having air go through it, it has cold water on one side and the hot work on the other side. So it comes out of here at 200 degrees, and it'll go into the fermenter at 68 degrees, and the fermenter is right over here.
Okay.
So this again takes about 40 minutes, 50 minutes to get the hot work chilled down and into the fermenter. And this is where the beer is actually made. So now we add the yeast, and the yeast is what really makes the beer. Us as brewers just try to make a happy place for the yeast to live. So the yeast is eating up all the sugars, and it's giving CO2 gas out, and it's also releasing alcohol. So that'll take about 5 to 7 days for that to happen. And then for our pale ales and IPAs, things that are dry hop, we actually add hops to the fermenter, let it set for a few more days, and then we drop the temperature on this. So this is temperature controlled. It has a jacket in here that liquid runs through it, food grade liquid. Doesn't touch the beer or anything, just keeps it temperature wise. And now after we chill it down, the yeast will drop down to the bottom, and we can take the yeast out to use again. And then after a couple more days, everything's nice and clear. We'll take the beer out of here and run it into the cold room. And there's another tank in there called the bright tank. And that's where the final conditioning of the beer is and the final carbonation. We'll collect some carbonation on the beer here. You can see this one actually I brewed a week ago. I just dry hopped this morning. So it's closed up, and you see I have a little pressure up there on the gauge. So I'm already capturing CO2. So I don't need as much to add as much CO2 to the beer to get to the proper carbonation level. So it'll sit in there for a couple days, and that's when the beer will clear and be ready to either drink right out of the tank through our taps or get packaged into kegs.
Okay, very cool. So
The
is that
process
like
from the grain until you can drink it in your glass is anywhere from a very fast beer would be 14 days to 21 days for our ales. If we do any lagers, we usually do proper lagering, and that's maybe 6 to 8 weeks for the beer.
what? And I drink mine in less than 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, that's a lot of work. Well, I really appreciate it because I know it's all delicious. So that's great. Thank you for showing us that. Awesome. So Kevin, how does your beer connect with the island, the feel of the Virgin Islands?
Well, we're located in Frenchtown, so we embrace Frenchtown. So as many people know, there's several Eiffel Towers in Frenchtown. So when we designed our tap handles, we said, okay, let's have an Eiffel Tower. And then this rooster, as there's a lot of chickens and roosters in Frenchtown also, and this rooster actually used to live out back, and we took pictures of him, and they were all hand painted to match him. He was the beautiful, the prettiest rooster I've ever seen. So,
That is really, really cool. That's very cool. So at the moment, the Eiffel Tower we have out there is only about this tall right now since the hurricanes, right?
yes.
But this would be the full effect. But that's really awesome. I'm really glad you guys chose to take that path on it. That's
And there's
very
there's
cool.
another Eiffel Tower. There's one at the entrance of Frenchtown, but there's also one over at the Frenchtown Heritage Museum
Yeah,
that sits out front there.
and that one's normal. Very cool.
So now there's nothing else to do but enjoy some beer if you would like.
All right, sounds good to me.
Which would you like?
Let's try the cream ale. All right, so I have here the cream ale. And how long exactly does it take to make this one? This is a lighter one you guys have, right?
Yes, it's a lighter one. That one goes a little faster. Sometimes the fermentation, depending on how much alcohol is going to be in the beer, because that matters for how much grain is in it. So this is one of our lower alcohol beers, and so the yeast goes through the sugar a little quicker. So this could be done like in 5 days for the primary fermentation, and then a couple more days for conditioning. But these all basically take 14 to 17 days right here because they're all ales.
Okay.
But the ones that are dry hop tend to take a little longer. So our pale ale and our IPA and the pale ale take about 4 or 5 more days than, like, say, the brown or the cream ale.
Okay. Cool. Right.
So our brown ale is a mixture between an American and an English style ale. It's not really any specific style that's like the GABF style, and it's a mashup kind of between American and an English one. So it has some English malts in it, some English hops, but it also has some American hops and American yeast. So we really made it to complement a barbecue restaurant's beer or their food, the beer to go with the food. And they wanted something that's more drinkable, so it's not heavy. It's a dry brown ale.
Okay.
Coffee stuff. Our IPA is kind of a West Coast style IPA, 7.2% alcohol, and hopped with citrus, Simcoe, and Amarillo. The 86 and Sunny Pale Ale is an American style pale ale at about 6.4% alcohol, and it's dry hop with a hop called Falconer's Flight, gives some citrusy kind of flavors. And the cream ale is one of only 3 historical American style beers. One being a cream ale, the other one being California Common, which most people associate Anchor Steam Ale with that. And the third one being a Kentucky Common, which is kind of a cream ale with dark malts. So it was made originally to compete with German lagers that were taking over the U.S. at the turn of the century. And the Americans weren't set up to do lagering processes. They were still all doing ales. So they had to try to brew something that was really light in flavor and not malty or not fruity like a lot of ales to compete with German Pilsners. And they came up with that style. And there's still a few around. They were kind of almost gone, and then craft brewers have kind of brought them back.
Okay.
And we don't have it on tap here right now, but we have a Belgian style farmhouse ale. We call it Frenchy Farmhouse. And it's a classic Belgian saison style.
Okay. Very cool. I have not tried that one yet, but this cream ale is my favorite one. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all so much for watching Food Beat Island Adventure right here in St. Thomas, United States Virgin Islands, where today we spoke about mixology, brewing, and rum distilleries. We hope that you all enjoyed.